Member Winograd.
Here.
And Mayor Vagianos.
Here. Will you all please join us in a salute to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we go to public comment, I have a short statement. There was an article in the paper today regarding an item on tonight's agenda concerning the position of municipal historian. And while we will be discussing it later in detail this evening, I want to make sure everyone has all the facts. Let me begin by saying that we are incredibly grateful to the individuals who have served in this position over 2 decades. Their volunteer service to our village is what I mean when I talk about getting off the bench and into the game. I wish everyone gave as freely of their time and expertise to our village. They are incredibly well qualified, and their historical knowledge has been of paramount importance to our village and its residents. As the years have passed, however, their connection to the village has become attenuated. One of the 2 municipal historians, who I believe was a resident his whole life, moved out of town over a decade ago. The other individual, who was not a resident, was appointed municipal historian while serving as the director of the historical room at the Ridgewood Library. I believe she even started that room. Today, that room is referred to as the Bolger Heritage Center. She left that position, I believe, in 2016. As a result, neither of the current municipal historians has any connection, either by residency or employment, to the village. And while both are incredibly well qualified to serve, have not had any connection to the village for many years. The proposed ordinance, which we will discuss later this evening, simply seeks to establish the same connection to our village for the municipal historian as we have had for so many years. What is being proposed is to have the current director of the Bolger Heritage Center appointed as municipal historian for a finite term of 5 years. It is because of the connection and experience established by our current municipal historian that has worked out so well that we are proposing the identical qualifications and connection as had originally been established. I want to be abundantly clear that the council's actions in this regard have nothing to do with anyone's position regarding the Shedler property. In fact, the other municipal historian, who also chairs the Historic Preservation Commission, signed a letter announcing that the HPC voted unanimously that it has no objection to the plan for Shedler Park that was approved by this council. What I regret, and what we accept full responsibility for, is that this was not handled better. This was originally scheduled for our meeting of November 8th. When we realized that we had neglected to contact these individuals, we pulled it off the agenda so we could speak with them directly. On behalf of this council, I want to convey our heartfelt thanks to 2 people who have served our village admirably for decades. Thank you. And now we'll go to public comment.
Frank, the B-Man, Mortimer, 426 Van Buren Street, Ridgewood, New Jersey. I'm here today not as the B-Man, but as to speak on behalf of the Parks and Rec Board, and this is in regards to the hazardous barn at Habernacle Park. The PRC Board fully supports raising the barn due to the increasing safety concerns as well as health concerns. We've had people come and speak to us, residents that have talked about their concerns over it and have addressed us directly about them wanting it raised as well. This past summer, we as a board held a meeting over at Habernacle and were able to look around the outside of the barn, because of course you can't get inside, to see for ourselves just in what poor condition it is. And
Frank, could you hold on a second?
PRC Board fully supports raising the barn due to the increasing safety concerns as well as health concerns. We've had people come and speak to us. Well, it's so...
And not that it's not incredibly important and well said.
It's so good, it's worth hearing twice.
Okay, so sorry. Continue, Frank.
Yeah. So back in the summer, the board had a meeting over at Habernacle so we could see firsthand how poor of condition the barn was in. And it was shocking. You know, that's a very heavily trafficked area, I would say, especially with the health barn in the summer where the camps that they hold for the kids. And the concerns with it, first and foremost, is it's falling apart. And if it's falling apart, then that means it could fall on somebody. Second, it's clear that there's a lot of infestation. I am not a trained vermin expert, but it certainly looks like that there's a lot, and it's been reported that there is. And so what if a rat or whatever bites somebody? So between it falling on somebody or the vermin living in the bar, it's an issue that if we don't solve quickly, it's going to get worse, and it's going to be the village fault if it's not raised. So for all of these reasons, the PRC board would like to see the barn raised, and I personally, as a citizen, would also like to see it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank.
Good evening. My name is Tim Graham. I live at 377 Beveridge Road, or at least I did, and was temporarily displaced. It's very close to Habernickel Park. He calls it Habernickel, I call it Habernickel, but we have the same view on the barn. I'm a big fan of Habernickel. It's a treasure for this community, an underutilized asset, I believe. I love it. My dog loves it even more. And, but that barn, it not only is it an eyesore, I agree with Frank, it's a health threat. It's a danger. It's falling down. I've taken pictures. It's also a magnet for rodents and other animals, and I think it's only a matter of time that it could be something really bad could happen there, including a group of kids breaking in and who knows what. But my point is, it really is in bad shape. It needs to be removed. I think we deserve better. It's an eyesore. It also, with the porta potty, it's the only facility out there. It stinks a lot, especially during the summer. I think we just deserve better. I don't know what the answer is in terms of the future. That's not the point. My real concern is that it be removed, and I'm pretty sure we won't find any historical value to it. I don't, I know the years ago it was used as a stable, but it hasn't been used in that way for most of the 20 years or so that I've lived here. So with that, I think, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim.
Good evening, 342 South Irving Street, Ann Loving. First of all, I would like to thank the village manager for giving me permission to bring my dog here this evening, which I will explain in a moment. And second of all, I'd like to wish Heather a happy birthday because I learned it's her birthday. Last Friday, while I was walking my dog on a leash in front of my home, two large unleashed dogs came running over. One of the dogs violently attacked my dog. My husband and I had to rush to the emergency veterinary hospital on Route 17 where Eddie underwent surgery. The vet was unequivocal in stating that the larger dog had attempted to kill my dog. Thankfully, my dog's going to be okay. He can't be left alone, which is why he's here. I am so grateful. The reason that I bring this up here at the council meeting is twofold. First, I would like to thank Dawn Citrullo of the Health Department, Keith Kasmark, the village manager, and Carol Tyler of Tyco, who helped address the matter of the loose dogs. My neighbors, in my absence, called the police and filed a police report. A gardener who was working across the street and who I had never met ran across the street and bravely, broke up the attack. They all stayed behind and corralled the dogs, contacted the owner in Glen Rock, talked to the police, and generally took care of business while we were with Eddie as he underwent life-saving surgery. Officer Colin Donnelly came by our house later in the afternoon to see how our dog was doing and to see how we were doing. Really, it takes a village, and I never saw that more clearly than last Friday. Animal Control has visited the house in Glen Rock, and steps are being taken to ensure that these dogs are never able to get loose again. This was not the first time they have been loose. It was made very clear to us that they escape regularly. They can never present a risk to an animal or, God forbid, to a human again. So, besides wanting to acknowledge the kindness, efficiency, and assistance of Ridgewood, Glen Rock, and a total stranger, I also want to urge anyone who is listening to understand this. If your dog is attacked by another dog, you should and you must file a police report. If you don't do so, which I didn't do, my neighbors did, but if it's not done, then there is no record and no steps can be taken to ensure that it won't happen again. I fully understand that it could be very awkward if you're reporting a dog that belongs to a neighbor or a friend. That was not the case with us. We didn't know the people. However, it's the right thing to do, and it's the only way to ensure that an aggressive dog will not have the opportunity to do this again. When I said before that it takes a village, that also applies here. Imagine if your dog was attacked and you chose not to report it, and then that aggressive dog attacked another dog or a person. It really is an obligation, and I urge anyone who's listening to please understand that. Having your animal survive the attack is key, but then following through by making sure that the attacking dog is secured is also key. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. I know I speak on behalf of the entire council. Many of us are dog owners. We're very sorry to hear that Eddie was attacked. We're all relieved to hear he's going to be okay, and we appreciate your coming to alert everyone of what needs to be done, because how else would we know? Thank you.
Cynthia O'Keefe, 542 West Saddle River Road. I wanted to just start by saying that, yes, I'm interested in hearing more information when you get to the topic of discussing the historians and person that you're intending to hire. And I do think it's appropriate that Joe and Peggy were thanked for their many years of devoted service. I hope that doesn't change the landscape of Ridgewood because of the fact that they do know so much, they are so knowledgeable, and personally, I don't think it has anything to do with where they physically reside. I don't know if, Keith lives in Ridgewood or Heather lives in Ridgewood, so it doesn't matter that they don't live here. I'm just not calling you out personally. I don't know where you live, but it shouldn't matter because they have the knowledge of the village, whether they lived here now or they lived here in the past. The letter they sent was on November 27th. It was not done under the guise of the Historic Preservation Commission, and the letter was not intended to be from the chair of the Historic Preservation Commission. So Joe didn't send it in an official capacity. They sent it as village historians. It was sent to Catherine Markopol from the State Historic Preservation Office, and that's also the Department of Environmental Protection. They felt so passionately that they needed to speak out about the Shedler property, given so many contentious decisions that have been made. And based on the passion that they share for this village, this is the letter they sent. Dear Ms. Markopol, Joe and I have been the historians for Ridgewood for over 20 years. As the Village Council considers retiring us from our positions, we would like to share our thoughts on the Zabriskie Shedler house and the use of the property. We researched and participated in writing the application for the Certificate of Eligibility for the Zabriskie Shedler House, JAL Zabriskie Shedler House, in 2013 and have followed the progress, setbacks, and controversies surrounding the house and the property. As a historic building, the house has been saved. This is a credit to many in the community and serving in the village government. The plan for use of the property around the house is, however, in contention. When the village purchased the property, it was planned as a mixed-use athletic and recreational facility. Given the historic nature of the house and the property, we feel that the recreational development should be in scale with the property. The compromise for 2018 reached between the athletic organizations and the neighbors on the size and location of the field should be honored. In addition, we would offer that the following comments on the various plans proposed over the years. The land can be used for athletics with consideration with the context of the house. Open land near the house is historically appropriate as parking near the house and use of native shrubs and trees. Gus Shedler, the last owner, was interested in trees and planted many specimen trees. He also protected and nurtured the historic maple on the property. Can I finish?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Next to the house, which was recently granted heritage or big tree status by the DEP. Well, I mean, she might not have known that it was rescinded. That being said, this was, she did know that, which was contested by the village. Okay. In recognition of the natural history of the property and its development by the Shedlers, special care should be taken in selecting the trees and shrubs for the property. In consideration of the context of the house, the use of artificial turf is inappropriate. The size of the field should be proportional to the property. The property can support multiple uses: historic, athletic recreation, passive recreation, and habitat. The village needs to find use for the house. It's unrealistic to expect it to be income-producing property. I'm sure that one or more Ridgewood nonprofits would be glad to have this space for meetings, practice, example, musical groups, and/or storage. The latest plan, which she had dated 10/27/22, the use of the house was impaired by providing no nearby access for parking, delivery, or handicapped access. There is provision for handicapped access, which is diminished by the usefulness by being almost 100 feet from the house. Historically, this would be some kind of vehicle access near the house. In the 20th century, it was a driveway garage north of the house. We encourage the New Jersey Historic Preservation Office to advocate for a context for the Zabriskie Shedler house. That includes native trees and shrubs, a moderate-sized athletic field with natural turf or grass, and passive recreation opportunities and natural habitat for wildlife. Sincerely yours, Peggy Norris, Joseph Plicky, historians for the Village of Ridgewood.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Christina Millian, 530 West Saddle River Road. I just wanted to publicly state thank you to Peggy and Joe tonight. I've never worked anywhere in my life for 20 years, let alone given 20 years of volunteer work to a town. So I just think that what they've done for this town is completely commendable. And I would also say that bringing up the location of where they live actually just double down and proves that their dedication was that committed, that they don't even apparently physically live here, and we're still that committed to Ridgewood and that committed to Bergen County. And so I just think what they've done is awesome, and given all of this time to the community and to the town, should be recognized. So thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Anyone else? Seeing no one, we have a couple of people from online, and the first one, I'm very happy to say, is Rurik Hallaby, who has been a little under the weather lately. So, how you doing there, Rurik? You're on mute.
I'm doing fine, Paul. Thank you very much. Rurik Hallaby, 1 Franklin Avenue. I'll be very, very brief. I'm presently unable to be with you in person, but I'm pleased to join you by hybrid meeting. Thank you, Village Council, for allowing this. Also, thank you, the Village Council and Village Manager, for embarking on a project to fix Ridgewood streets and roads. Ridgewood was so shabby looking with these horrible pothole streets. Come spring, the 3 streets will be repaved, and we will have streets and roads we can be proud of. Yes, taxes at work. Lastly, I realize the zoning board works independently of the village council. So I'm addressing this comment to the listeners and not you necessarily, the village council. We, the residents of Ridgewood, should do all we can to make sure the billboard never goes up. In this day and age, to have a billboard like that is an abomination. Truly a poke in the eye with a sharp stick to the residents of Ridgewood. Thank you very much, and keep up the good work, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Rurik, and we're so glad to see you doing better. Next
you.
up, Susan. You're on mute. Oh, no, you're not on
Yep,
mute.
I'm
Sorry, go
not.
ahead.
Thank you. Susan Ruan, 705 Kingsbridge Lane. I just hold on, that's for my comments. I just have a few comments. One, I thank Warwick for bringing up the billboard, because I also realized that I do agree with him that the billboard should not be allowed. I also realize that several of the members of the zoning board are going to be, their term is expiring, and that there's going to be new members of the zoning board, and hopefully they will not approve this billboard, which I don't even understand why it's even being contemplated. And then I also, for just a little FYI, I know Warwick just spoke about the potholes. West Saddle River Road is a complete mess. And it's just not, we drive around other parts of Ridgewood, and it's not even comparable to what we have to drive through every day on the road. Hohokus just repaved their portion of West Saddle River Road, which was nowhere as dilapidated as Ridgewood's section. And can we say that we have envy of road work? Because when we go onto that, our cars are not going bump, 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 bump. There is no excuse why West Saddle River Road has been neglected for so long. And talking about the road, unfortunately, we live in Section A of leaf collection, and the leaves have only been collected once so far in this section. I'm not certain about other sections of town. I do, and again, back to West Saddle River Road. That road is off a major highway, and we have to go in and out of this obstacle course, driving, around, which is, again, a hazard on top of the potholes. And I'm not certain why that's been allowed to be not collected sooner, because some of the piles were so high, not because of the residents' fault, it's just because it was never collected. And it became a driving hazard. So I don't know when the next leaf collection is supposed to be happening, because I know people are still putting leaves out, but we'll hopefully next year it won't be that bad. And also, why is West Saddle River Road allowed to have leaf collection when I've driven down Linwood and Ridgewood Ave? They don't have the same leaf out on the streets as we do, and we have to go, again, zigzag around.
Thank you very much,
That's pretty much
Susan.
it.
Your
Thank
time
you.
is up. Thank you so much. Anyone else? Seeing no one, I'm going to close public comment, and we can proceed with our agenda.
Mayor, before you do, I'd
Yes.
just like to address one point that the last speaker brought up about the Zoning Board of Adjustment and the new members coming in on the billboard application. Unfortunately, the zoning board, the board members who may make decisions on any application have to hear the entire application.
Right.
So one of the things under consideration by the council is renewing or extending the terms of any of the members that would be, have been involved in that application, all of the application hearings, so that they can follow through with it and bring it to a conclusion. So you can't just appoint a new member and they jump in and they start participating. So we're going to try and make sure that the same zoning board members that have heard the application throughout continue to hear it to its conclusion.
Thanks for that clarification, Matt.
And through you, Mayor, to Susan, just to back up Matt's comments, new members appointed to the board would not be able to hear this application because they didn't start with the application. So I think that's needs to be made abundantly clear moving forward as we get to January, when appointments would be made by the Village Council. In addition to that, with regard to West Saddle River Road, I think I've said at no fewer than 4 or 5 meetings that this is a street that I have earmarked with our engineering department for resurfacing during next year's program. That commitment to have that on the list remains. There obviously were delays because there was concern over how the street might be impacted if the property at Shedler was developed. That was the delay, but one way or the other, I think it's our intention to prioritize that going into the 2024 capital budget.
Thanks, Keith. That's an important point. So, with that, let's go to the manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I hope everyone had a pleasant and thankful Thanksgiving. I want to start off by thanking the Social Services Association for their food collection and distribution drive. We had an abundance of donations downstairs in the community center. I know the mayor had the opportunity to join with the group as they were distributing the food right before Thanksgiving. So I certainly, on behalf of the entire community and the region, want to thank them for their efforts in making sure that everyone had a pleasant Thanksgiving. During the month of November, myself, Mayor Vagianos, and Director of Operations Rich Calby spent a good amount of time reaching out to the state legislative teams in the 3 districts, the 3 legislative districts which represent the community serviced by Ridgewood Water. It is a priority for the Village Council and for Ridgewood Water to try to solicit as much supplemental funding as we possibly can from the state and federal government. And I want to thank Rich publicly tonight for his efforts in reaching out to the legislators to try to put Ridgewood Water on the radar as the state prepares for their next fiscal year budget. I also want to reiterate the comments made by Mrs. Loving tonight. I do strongly encourage, and I've had conversations with Chief Lyons about this over the last few days, we want to strongly encourage all residents to responsibly care as they're walking their dogs throughout the village. The situation that happened on Friday was terrible, and it was because of the irresponsibility of containing those dogs at that home in Glen Rock that the Lovings had to experience what they had to experience over the weekend. So we strongly want to encourage everyone to be responsible dog owners, make sure that their dogs are leashed and contained when on their properties. On behalf of the police department, I want to encourage everyone who's interested in possibly becoming a police officer to sign up and take the entrance level civil service examination. We are in the process right now of vetting candidates for police officer positions to start with the village this coming January. And as Chief Lyons and his team have gone through that process, he has asked me to relay that message to anyone who would like to become a police officer prospectively. I also want to thank the police department. They received an award this week. The entire department was recognized with the Driver Safety Award, and specifically, Lieutenant Chuck was recognized as a traffic hero for identifying ill-lit intersections here in the village and proactively coming up with a plan to address those areas. So I want to congratulate Jay on his recognition. I also want to thank the village again for all of their efforts, especially the Green Team, for renewing their Sustainable New Jersey certification. Deputy Mayor Perrin was front page news this week in the Ridgewood News, and I know she's going to talk more about that under her council report, but I just want to thank everyone on the village team who was involved in achieving that bronze level certification. I spoke today to representatives from the Department of Transportation relative to the Park and Ride on Route 17. Very happy to say that both sides of the Park and Ride, since right before Thanksgiving, have been made accessible to commuters. I know this was an issue near and dear to Councilman White's efforts to try to improve that area and make sure it was accessible. I also received today the planting plan. And we are working through when those plantings can be done, whether there's still a window of opportunity to do it now, although the temperatures are getting colder, or whether those plantings would need to be held off into the springtime. Also further discussion with the NJDOT about possibly using some funds that are available to improve the bus station downtown, and also to improve the pedestrian bridge going over 17 near the Park and Ride facility. With regard to staff training, I want to thank Heather Maylander and her team in the clerk's office for putting together required JIF training that we had on Monday, and I also want to thank Beth in my office for coordinating civil service training that we had with the staff just about 2 weeks ago. Looking forward to January, when we will be announcing the rebranding with our new logo. I want to thank Councilwoman Winograd for her efforts, along with the communications team there. And we will be launching our new website come January 1st of next month. We received today, late this afternoon, correspondence from Richard Grubb and Associates, which was the contractor that we used to perform the archaeological study at the Shedler property. There is an extensive letter that was written. We are awaiting the final report, which we anticipate we will receive this coming Friday. But the letter that was put together today included a proposal for a Phase 2 archaeological study, which is going to be required at the recommendation of Richard Grubb and Associates. I can say with certainty that they've concluded that there was no evidence of any type of Revolutionary War artifacts discovered during the archaeological study, but there were items that may have been associated with the house in and around that area that would require a Phase 2 study. So the proposal that I left with the council before tonight's meeting would be for a twofold spending initiative. The first would be Phase 2 work in coordination with the New Jersey Historic Preservation Office. That amount is $6,000, including expenses, and then the cost for the Phase 2 archaeological study would be $47,778,000 and $47,778. That would be available through a capital bond that has already been earmarked for the Shedler property. And I am requesting tonight a consensus under my report that Heather be authorized to place a resolution on next week's agenda to move forward with the Phase 2 archaeological study. I will tell you I bring this up tonight under my report because I think time is of the essence. If we wait on this and we do have snowfall or the ground freezes over thoroughly, Grubb will not be able to go out and perform this archaeological study in a timely fashion, and we'll probably have to sit on this till spring. I know this has been something that the residents have requested in the past during public meetings. I know this is something that we would be required to go to SHPO with, so I would encourage the council to consider tonight moving forward with a resolution authorizing the Phase 2.
I definitely would support that because of where we are in terms of going into winter, but I really want to do due diligence here. I think it's money well spent. I'm eager to see what the Phase 2 survey shows. Our residents have asked for this, and we're going to need it for SHPO anyway. So, yeah, I would be in favor of putting that on next week's agenda.
I'm fine with it.
Okay. Okay.
All in.
We'll add it to next week's agenda for formal action. And lastly, just a few announcements. First, I want to thank the Ridgewood Chamber of Commerce, our police department, all the departments who were a part of the Downtown for the Holidays event on Friday evening. Despite the rain, there were umbrellas for as far as the eye could see down Ridgewood Avenue. I also want to thank Downs Tree Service, who voluntarily helps cut down the tree, move the tree, and install the tree near the train station. Interestingly enough, our drone team from the police department, and Chief Lyons is here tonight. I want to thank he and the guys for putting together the video, which actually showed the entire transportation process. It was a little reminiscent of Rockefeller Center, which was cool. But I want to thank the drone team and the folks down in the police department for helping us out with that. Tomorrow night is the menorah lighting at Memorial Park at Van Ness Square from 5:30 to 7:30. We encourage everyone to come and participate in the celebration of Hanukkah. We are continuing with our free parking on Thursday evenings in the Central Business District from 4 to 8 p.m. I know that the business owners were excited about this, and we encourage everyone to take advantage of it. Santa Claus will actually be here in Ridgewood at Santa's house from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., also in Van Ness Square on Saturdays, December 9th, the 16th, and the 23rd from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Encourage everyone to head out there to the Central Business District to visit with Santa. I want to thank the Ridgewood FMBA, Local 47. They will be riding their fire truck in town with Santa Claus on Friday, December 22nd, and they will be making stops at each of the elementary schools here in the village. Village offices will be closed in observance of Christmas Eve and Christmas Day on Friday, December 22nd, and Monday, December 25th. There will be garbage and recycling pickup on Friday, December 22nd, and the recycling center will be open from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. on that day. Our next village council meeting is a week from tonight on December 13th, starting at 7:30, and our first meeting in January will be January 10th, which will be a work session, also starting at 7:30. That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thanks, Keith. Ev?
Great. Thanks so much, Paul. Just a couple of things. I know we have a long agenda, so I will be somewhat brief. For those of you watching MSNBC today, you may have seen our own Rabbi Fine and Iman Hamza on national TV today talking about the event we had in Ridgewood a few weeks ago, bringing together unity amongst Jews, Muslims, and everyone else. It was really just fabulous to see Ridgewood setting an example for the rest of the nation in terms of civil discourse and living with diversity. Really could not be prouder of those two folks in the event that we held a few weeks ago, but to see it on national TV made it even that much more special. Had the privilege right before the tree lighting of handing out, along with Paul, the awards for the Ridgewood Art Council contest for storefront design. I'm a liaison to the Ridgewood Arts Council. This is a long-running contest. I got to spend 2 weekends going around to the businesses with members of the RAC, informing the businesses of the contest. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter who wins, because so long as Ridgewood looks nicer, we attract more people to the CBD, which is what really counts. But I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you that Sina, Felina, and Nueva Crichuria were the 3 winners this year. I go out, thank them for really making Ridgewood beautiful, but there were dozens of other businesses that were really gorgeous as well, and was really, really proud to be part of the Ridgewood Arts Council and that part of in that contest. Right after we gave out the awards, as Keith had mentioned, got to go to the tree lighting. Keith, I think I speak on behalf of the entire council for thanking everyone at the village employees that made that a special night. The weather did not cooperate, but we really owed it to the people that did come out in that weather to give them a special night, and we really did. Every year, the village really just does a wonderful job. This year, even more so given the lousy weather, but it was really just wonderfully executed, really well done, and a testament to those folks that work in the village, and I couldn't be prouder and happier that they were out. Also, thank you, Keith, for the park and ride. For my fellow commuters, I'm glad we finally have this fixed. I'm sorry it took so long, but was very pleased that our advocacy got the New Jersey Department of Transportation to open up the second half of the lot. Now we're moving on to the second piece, which is addressing some of the concerns that village residents who live along the periphery of the lot have about getting some more trees, so there's more separation between the parking parking lot and the homes. Hopefully we'll be able to get some of those trees up before the end of the year. However, I'm very, very pleased that the rest of the parking lot has now been opened. It was an unsafe situation for commuters. It's now been fully paved, fully open, and my fellow commuters don't have to fight for limited parking spots anymore. And then finally, would encourage all of you to join us the menorah lighting tomorrow, 5:30. Come out and support the Jewish part of our community. Now, especially, it's important to show that we embrace diversity. I will certainly be there. I'm proud to be there. And for everyone who is celebrating, do have a happy Hanukkah.
Thanks, Evan. Siobhan?
Sure, thanks. So I'm going to try to go quickly because we do have a long agenda. Earlier in November, we were lucky enough to attend the Elder Dinner, which is hosted by Parks and Recreation, as well as Health Barn, and generously donated by the Kapoor family and Glen Rock. We've been doing this for several years at Old Premise Church. It was awesome. And quite simply, it is a place to celebrate Thanksgiving for older adults and remove some of the isolation and enjoy an awesome meal. Just such a great experience. If you've never been involved in it, I would encourage you to be involved in it, and thank you to everyone who made it happen. Later that week, I met with Pride. The Pride Committee is welcoming 2 new members next week, and we were happy to secure the date of the senior prom at high school, so we have no conflict, and Pride this year will be June 1st. We like to keep it, not in conflict with the prom, so the kids of Saga can attend, so we're very excited about that. I also had a meeting with Access, and we hosted a woman named Anika Davis, who provides services from Bergen County. Now that we have placed so many older adults with special needs in our community, making sure they understand the services they're entitled to, securing them meaningful work, understanding some of the legalities, because there's all different types of living uptown now. Ms. Davis came to speak. She was wonderful. I know that Access was super excited to have her back, and we look forward to our next month's meeting. We're bringing in a series of out-of-district guests to speak to that population about, like, how is this working? What can we do? What types of businesses can come in here? What type of traffic signals can we put in place that are more meaningful to our special needs population? Additionally, I know that last month we spoke about the sensory-free dinner. We are doing a sensory-friendly dinner on Monday, December 11th at Parisa, and this is going to be great, and I want to thank everybody. First, I want to thank police and fire who always show up, and that's, again, so meaningful for that population and community because it's engagement. But this time I'm going to thank Signal. Kids with sensory issues really struggle coming into a crowd, and we've been doing things like early hour. So if there's going to be a crowd at 5, we'll open up an event, and it'll be 4 o'clock, and people will be able to participate in the event. It's on site, it's inclusionary, and that's what they want. We've really struggled with the lighting of the tree. So on Monday, our Signal department is coming with a button. The tree will remain dark, and the special needs population from a limited, less sensory-filled area will light the tree. And I want to thank Rich Charlton for being so available with this. I want to thank the restaurant community, Mayor Paul, of course Lorraine, and everybody, and I want to encourage all of you to attend if you can. It's actually, not because it's my committee, a beautiful experience. And a big shout out to Jamie Davis, who's a new member of Access, who's doing more of this integration into the community, and I'm just so lucky she sits on my committee.
Before you move on, Siobhan, it's at Parisa East. There is also a Parisa restaurant. This is at Parisa East, which is the corner of Ridgewood Avenue and Broad.
Yes, right next to the tree, which will be very exciting. 4 to 6. 4 to 6. And you can come for any and all parts. You can eat or you can just come mingle. It'll be very exciting. I also attended the Parks and Recreation meeting last week, and that was wonderful. I want to, because I just spoke about Access, brag a little bit about Parks and Recreation is releasing a lot of their content and information. And when we talk about crossover between departments, the Parks Department is now ensuring that all of their flyers are ADA compliant. This is huge. This is wonderful. It's wonderful for Ridgewood. I want to thank Katie Fry. I also think if you didn't get this in the mail, they're available at the Parks Department. I want to thank Nancy, of course. And in addition to that, Parks ran the S'mores Fest in Van Ness Park, which was just wonderful. Everyone's going to talk about Friday and how great it was, but particularly from the park side, I was so proud of them. Everybody had such a good time, and it was really whimsical and charming. And additionally, into parks, thank you for the fire department to be there to make sure the fire did not get out of control. Keith and I had a follow-up meeting on flood mitigation. Paul attended as well. We met with the DEP and the Board of Ed, and we are still discussing some areas of improvement, mostly on Board of Ed land. The committee, there has been a subcommittee funding team put together to raise funds for prospective studies, and you'll be hearing more about that. But I want to thank the superintendent, Keith and Paul, for all their time. And then, I'm almost done. Lastly, I did want to say that in November, we had the privilege of going to Atlantic City for training, and I want to say that we went to all these seminars and we drew on best practices, and we talked about issues that, you know, affect us here in Ridgewood but affect everybody elsewhere as well. And I want to thank Heather in the clerk's office for sending us. I want to say to everybody on our staff who went, it was so excellent to see us both bragging about our professional successes and seeking information on others. So this was in Atlantic City, and I wanted to just say I'm incredibly grateful that we had this opportunity to go, and you'll be hearing probably all 3 of us draw upon things that we picked up there. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Siobhan. Lorraine?
Thank you. Real quick, I just wanted to let everybody know the Citizen Safety Advisory Committee, which typically meets the 3rd Thursday of the month, being that it would be so close to the holiday, we decided to move it up. We are having it this coming Monday, December 11th at 7:30 in the Garden Room. If you have any issues with safety, it's open to the public, you can come, or email me, and we'll put it on the agenda and have a discussion about it. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Lorraine. Pam?
Thank you, Paul. Following up on what Keith mentioned about applying for a job with the police department, if you take the civil service exam, Ridgewood residents and veterans are granted a preference, so that's worth considering. Also, with respect to Santa's tour around town on December 22nd, that starts at 4 o'clock at the Glen School, and the truck will take Santa to each of the other 6 elementary schools. I did want to thank the Chamber of Commerce and the Guild and everybody on staff who helped Friday night with Downtown for the holidays. It was just so much fun. And let's see, what else? The library is renovating, and the renovation starts on the 11th. The library is going to stay open during the renovations, but things are getting moved around a lot. The circulation desk is moving, and the children's department will be closed for 3 days between the 18th and the 21st, but the librarians can get you any book you're looking for. They do have future plans planned to renovate the mezzanine and the auditorium as well. I did want to congratulate the Green Team for getting bronze certification, and also the Green Team just got word that Columbia University Graduate School of International International and Public Affairs has agreed that their graduate students will work with the Green Team to work up our energy footprint and come up with best practices for our town. They're going to be doing research of what's going on in other towns in New Jersey, and so we're really excited to get working on that. Green Ridgewood had a tour of the leaf composting facility. Every time I go there, I learn something new from Chris Rudishauser. It was really a very interesting tour. And Green Ridgewood also, on a totally different note, gave a gift to the public library of a battery-powered leaf blower which will be in their Library of All Things. If you haven't heard about their Library of Things, it's like books. You can take these things out of the library and use them however you see fit. So now the battery-powered leaf blower is one of those. Let's see, Ridgewood Water, the officials in 4 towns met with new engineers who have been hired to help with replacing the lead service lines, and it was really interesting meeting with them. They will be coordinating with PSE&G, helping with markouts, permitting, and we just were so impressed with them. They're so professional. And I also left an article on the table there from the New York Times Magazine section entitled Municipal Meetings. We all spend so much time here, and why? Sometimes I can't really even put my finger on why this is so important and so meaningful, what we do in this room. The author, rather indelicately, says, this is where a community spills its guts. And so I just thought it was good support for what we do. You can read it or not. That's all I have.
Thanks, Pam. And I know we have a long agenda, and I'm gonna rifle through this, but I'm gonna start with the fact that it is my friend Heather's birthday, which has already been mentioned, but here's a person who, like Lorraine on her anniversary, Heather on her birthday is here. And we are so grateful and so appreciative of the work that she does and her limitless experience and institutional knowledge. Thanks, Heather. Really appreciate it. And now, I have always said that we live in the greatest town in America. And since our last meeting, and I'm going to rifle through these things, and many have been mentioned, but this is why this is the greatest town in America. The social services food drive, there were 20 people out there giving out food in the cold weather. The interfaith service at the Old Paramus Reformed Church a few weeks back, the minister, rabbi, priest from every church or house of worship in Ridgewood was there. And if you haven't been to it, let me tell you, it's a special event. At the same Old Paramus Reformed Church was the elder dinner that Siobhan mentioned. And there were, I don't know, 100, 150 people there, all enjoying a wonderful turkey dinner. And it was just, again, a very, very special day. There were 2 Diwali festivals that I attended. What is Diwali, you ask? It is one of the holiest days on the Hindu calendar. And I learned something wonderful about this. It is the celebration of light over darkness, good over evil, knowledge over ignorance. I'm going to keep that in my back pocket because who can disagree with that? It's just, it was wonderful. The Christmas tree lighting. The weather outside was frightful, but the crowd was so delightful. I mean, you could not, except for the fact that there were umbrellas out there, you could not even tell that it was raining. Nancy, how you got those fires going in the park for the s'mores? Let me tell you, John, I thought you only knew how to put out fires. It was a very, very special day, and there's so much thanks to go around the chamber, our Ridgewood staff, Downs Tree Service, who does this every year for free, God knows why. But it is a wonderful thing. Tomorrow night, the menorah lighting, I will be there. It's at 5:30 at Van Nest. I've been there before. Again, now more than ever, let's all go to the menorah lighting. I have to report on something a little more substantive for a moment that also makes me happy. We had a PFAS review meeting at Ridgewood Water. And, you know, our biggest issue until we resolve this in 2026, and it will be resolved in 2026, is that in the summertime, because we water our lawns, and some people do it a little more than they should, that is when we have to take more water from wells that haven't been outfitted with or retrofitted with extra filtration. The 4 towns had gotten together. We all held hands, sang Kumbaya, and we urged our residents to try and use less water in the summer. Now, this summer had a dramatic effect on the amount of water that was used. Now, the fact that we had lots of rain this summer didn't hurt, but it was an overall success, and I was really pleased that the 4 towns came together for the common good. It was really something that restores my faith. And again, that is still scheduled for completion in 2026. The Jewish-Muslim Solidarity vigil that we had last month, as Evan said, if you haven't seen the interview between Imam Mahmoud Hamza and Rabbi David Fine, you can get it on msnbc.com, and it will make you feel not as bad about what's going on overseas. It was very special. The sensory-free dinner that Siobhan talked about. Who does these things? Our wonderful, incredible community. Do we have issues we have to deal with? Everybody in this room knows that. But there's a lot of good stuff going on, and let's recognize that. And finally, and most importantly, this last Thanksgiving weekend was a very special Thanksgiving weekend for my family, because my wife Jeannie and I celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary. And I will tell you, the woman, as I'm sure many of you realize, is an absolute saint. She did something very bad in a former life, but It has been the greatest ride ever. And I am so grateful and so thankful to this wonderful woman. And with that, we will move on to our regular agenda.
Here we go. Tonight, we have 2 items for discussion that will roll over into a motion to suspend the work session to convene a special meeting. So I'd ask Chief Judge from the Fire Department and Rich Calby from the Water Department to come up to speak on both of those issues that the council is going to be asked to take action on tonight. The first is a budget item relative to the Fire Department. This is the authorization of submission of an application for American Rescue Plan Firefighter Grant. This is for protective and sanitizing equipment for the Ridgewood Fire Department. So I'll ask the chief to share a few words on that as way of background before the council's asked to take action. And Rich, if you'd come up at the same time, just in case there are any public questions. This was an item that was discussed extensively in closed session about the settlement response to the Ridgewood water litigation with 3M and DuPont. Chief, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, John.
This is
And
the
Rich.
same grant we applied for 2 years ago. The state put it out again, which was nice. We got $32,000 last time. We're in the process, we just finished spending it all, and we're in the process of reimbursement. And then they put it out again, gave us a 4-week window to resubmit, and I'm working on it actually speak right now, and hopefully it'll be submitted with your approval, and that's about it. It'll continue to purchase turnout gear to help offset that capital budget item we have. And in addition, this year, we're going to ask for a solo rescue decon washer. What that is it's the only one on the market which will decon everything but our turnout gear. It'll decon helmets, boots, gloves, the SCBA itself. Cancer is such a huge thing in the fire service right now that anything we could do to help alleviate those concerns with everyone. So it's a company out of Texas. They're the only one that makes this product. So we're going to submit for that as well in the grant.
Great. Everybody good?
Any questions on the application from the council?
Nope.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
As I mentioned, the council was fully briefed in closed session about the litigation on 3M and DuPont. Any questions about the resolution that's before the council tonight for Rich? John, you can stay because you're going to stay here for Habernickel, so rather than make you get your steps in.
You're not getting away that easily.
Any questions on the settlement authority? Or I shouldn't say the settlement authority, the settlement response.
All good.
Okay. Heather, I think we're good to motion.
Okay. So we need a motion to suspend the work session and convene the special public meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Whites.
Yes.
Winograd,
Yes.
and Vagianos.
Yes. This is the Village Council special public meeting. The date is December 6, 2023. The time is 8:32. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mail to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled to same as provided by law of a schedule, including the date and time of this meeting. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Perrin.
Here.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Here.
Councilmember Whites.
Here.
Councilmember Winograd.
Here.
And Mayor Vagianos.
Here.
The following resolutions, number 23-387 to 23-389, will be adopted by a consent agenda with one vote by the Village Council. They will be read by title only. Authorize submission of application for American Rescue Plan Firefighter Grant, Protective and Sanitizing Equipment, Ridgewood Fire Department. Authorize execution of settlement response, Ridgewood Water Litigation versus 3M. Authorize execution of settlement response, Ridgewood Water Litigation versus DuPont. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Whites.
Yes.
Winograd.
Yes.
And Vagianos.
Yes.
I need a motion to adjourn the special public meeting and reconvene the work session.
So moved.
Second.
Hold on just one sec. Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Whites.
Yes.
Winograd.
Yes.
And Vagianos.
Yes.
Okay.
Mayor, next on the agenda is our one presentation tonight. This is on the Habernickel Barn. At this time, I'd ask Chief Judge to stay. I'd ask our village engineer, Chris Rudishauser, our Director of Parks and Recreation, Nancy Bigos, our Police Chief, Forrest Lyons, and Mariani from the Health Department to all come forward. I'd also ask Dylan in the control room to bring up the photographs of the Habernickel Barn on the screens, please. It's like Congress here tonight.
I'm just thinking, the gang's all here.
Mike, could you just check on the photos going up with Dylan? Through you, Mayor, upon my arrival here back in July, it quickly became apparent that we had some concerns with regard to the structural issues, safety issues, and health issues at the Habernickel Barn in the park. We had multiple meetings with the team that's before you today to talk about what options were available with regard to the barn, what future use might look like, but really to delve into the concerns that we all have about the public use of the barn and the safety, structural, and health concerns that exist there. I'm going to start off with Chris and ask him to address to you some of the concerns from the engineering department and the public works department on the structural integrity of the building. And Dylan's going to roll through some photographs as each of our department heads talk about this issue. So Chris, you're up first.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First photograph you're seeing up on the board is the west side of the building. Important thing to notice is all the windows except one, or all of them, are boarded up. And the reason being is they've all been broken by our local vandals. The building has been vandalized frequently and often. In the upstairs attic area, there is still a residue of the last party they had, empty beverage containers, and so forth. We do have alarms in the building, both fire and intrusion. They work sometimes. This picture you see now is basically the southeast corner of the building, showing some of the delamination of the soffit materials and the edge of roof decay. The center point piece that was in that picture, that's part of our, if I recall, that's part of our lightning detection system. This photograph depicts the east wall line facing to the very east. Again, evidence of deterioration. Soffits have fallen off, gutters have fallen off. That's the entrance door to get into the barn or the stable. It has been boarded up. The glass had been broken out and it had been broken into a number of times. Signal built that frame structure to try to keep people out. This is a view of the southern half of the barn, showing what the interior condition looks like. We do deal with pesticides, not with pesticides, I apologize, with rodents. You can see a bait box is in the picture. This is moving down the stable. Windows have been broken out. We've had to consequently then board them up. Same again. This is looking towards the interior of the southeast corner. To the very right of the picture is the electrical switchgear box, and again, boarded up window. This is the residue of the latest party that was evident in the upstairs area.
So this is a good segue, if we may, to Chief Lyons. Chief, you want to take us through the call volume at this location, please?
Yeah, sure. So over the past 10 years, we've had 1,728 calls for service there. Suspicious acts is about 82, juvenile delinquency 15, fireworks 19, criminal mischief, harassment, trespass 9, burglar and panic alarms, as you see, we've had 73 of those. Non-criminal and suspicious calls for services 85. That's basically just all the other calls, kind of the catch-all. The business checks, so directed patrols, how much we actually go and check on that, is 1,445. So we do actually go up there a lot and check on it. The biggest problem with it is the location, that not many people can have direct sight of it, so they don't call. So people and the kids know that this is a place where we're probably not going to get called on. We've had some substantial arrests, burglary, criminal mischief, and there was a quite substantial drug arrest a few years ago, because this is where people, kids and other people who want to stay out of the public eye, this is a good spot because there's really no great sight lines from their houses or even the road.
Dylan, go ahead. That's the upstairs as well. Mariani, can you discuss the health inspection that was done there with regard to a rodent population?
Yes. Hi, everyone. So an inspection was conducted at the barn, and there's several areas, at least 4, that have had both mouse and rat droppings. There was numerous areas of the barn that are deteriorated and points of entry for pests, like pictured above. And there is a large accumulation of water throughout the barn, which is the perfect condition for breeding mosquitoes and for mold.
And I just want to reiterate, I was up there with Nan last Thursday. There are a lot of points of entry for vermin, many points of entry for vermin.
Keith, does the tenant have any issue with the barn coming down?
No.
Okay.
No,
So we
they
talked with-
they don't have access to that through the lease agreement, so it has no impact.
Okay.
Okay. Chief Judge, can you speak about the most recent fire inspection that occurred there?
Sure. So December is fire prevention for, we do all the inspections of every village building in December. So we just did this one the other day. Aside from, as we mentioned, the dangerous condition, we talked about the soffit, the siding, a couple of those issues. Also found just some open electrical boxes, some light fixtures which are, we'll say broken but still on and attached, an unsecured gas line, and let's see, gas line, that the soffit and the broken light fixtures were the main concerns of the other day's inspection.
And then, Nan, if you could just speak to the resident concerns that have been expressed to your department and the practical uses of this structure based on its current condition within the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Good evening, Council. The Parks and Recreation Department has been monitoring this facility since it was purchased in April of 2004. I can tell you that this 10-acre property was financed through the open space, the Village of Ridgewood open space tax, Bergen County open space, Green Acres, the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection infrastructure loan, and village funds. So for the last 20 years, the barn has been on that list of things that we would like to do, but sadly hasn't met up to the list of our first priorities in regards to renovation. Departmentally, we receive complaints regarding this facility, everything from rodents to vandalism to park users and our neighbors taking offense to the portable toilet being located. I've had residents that wanted moved. I've moved it. Then I've had park users complain that they can't find it, so we've moved it back. It's been a challenge. The lack of shelter for our residents, our park users, our youth sports groups that are utilizing this facility is a real concern for me. The park is used greatly after school for our youth sports programs, for practices, for clinics, for mothers to walk in the afternoon with their children in strollers and little ones to ride their bikes. Oftentimes that's when our late afternoon storms come in and there's nowhere for them to go. The majority of our parks are adjacent to other facilities, whether they be school buildings, whether they be the library, village hall, the stable, which give our residents some place to go. Sadly, this is not the case up at Habernickel. Stacy has been so kind when this situation occurs to open the garage doors as the tenant and let our residents in there to seek shelter. But it's a hard priority for me, and it's a real concern. Most recently, we have had residents come to the Parks, Recreation, and Conservation Board and in public comment serve their concerns as that the building is being neglected, it's run down, it's vandalized, we've put Band-Aids on it, what are we doing? So we kind of noted that. It's in the minutes. I've shared that with our village manager.
If I may, Nan, it's actually included in the packet before you tonight.
Okay, so then we've had subsequent residents come and share the same. So it's important to us that we seriously take a look at this facility. Being a resident in that neighborhood, I can tell you I'm romantically attached to this building. I've had dreams and visions of what it could be for the last 20 years, but sadly, I think that it's come to a time when it's reached its tipping point. So we look to you for direction, but thank you.
So with regard to the packet that's in front of you, the second half of the packet really is a collection of letters, emails, different correspondence from various residents as to their concerns about the condition of the facility there. And I don't want to speak for Nan, and she can chime in on this, but after being there myself, you know, there is certainly a certain charm to the inside, not so much to the outside. However, really the only use for that building would be to, you know, stable horses there again, which I don't think is the intention of anyone up at that park. But Nan, can you talk about the salvageable contents within the building and the fact that there may be a revenue stream if the council were to decide to raise the building, that we may have people come in and take some of the elements of it?
So working with the engineering division, we have reached out to just to get quotes on what's next, right? Demolition, how do we do that? What's involved? And in taking these experts through the building, we have recognized, as you can see in the photo, there is barnwood that is really has a resource out in the field. There's also all of the stable doors, and the barnwood adjacent to that also has an opportunity to be bringing us a revenue.
There is a value to that.
Would we be proposing putting anything in its place or just taking the property?
So at this point, Councilman, I think our first goal is, if the council is inclined to do so, to take the quote, which is the back page of the packet that was submitted for this topic tonight, and move forward with the demolition. We have funding available to cover the $42,000 quote to remove the building. And then as we get to Capital 24, which is just a few months away, we would be talking about what type of amenities would replace this barn at that facility.
And where's the money coming from now?
Right now, we have an open bond that has capacity from the Habernickel project initially. Am I correct in saying that, Bob?
And I'm sorry to just be so candid, given that it seems like you have a unanimous opinion. Is there any good reason not to take it down?
No.
Thank you.
Nostalgia, but I'm not even sure that takes us where we want to be.
I got you.
So that's basically the consensus of the department directors across the board. I thought it was important that not only the council, but also the public heard directly from the folks who are dealing with some of the challenges at this facility. One other note, I did have a meeting this week with Green Acres and our representative, Maud Snyder. I talked to her about this discussion that was going to occur at tonight's meeting. Green Acres takes no objection to raising the barn. They would obviously have to be put on notice that that action was going to be taken if that's what the council decides to do here tonight. And then they would want to be part of future discussion about what would replace the barn, any type of amenities, any type of park improvement that we would discuss during our Capital 24 planning. They would want to be part of that so that it fits all of the Green Acres requirements. But that's the only standard we would need to meet when it comes to the DEP.
Questions?
So I do have questions. The proposal is for $42,000. It includes the permit, demolishing, police, removal of a contaminated, and testing. What about you said there were things that were valuable in it, so would Ridgewood be taking those down and trying to get money for those items?
So, Councilwoman, I think at that point that we will be able to negotiate that with the contractor. It was he that shared with me the ability for, he has the contacts for this, and that would be a further conversation with him.
Okay, you don't think this money includes him taking everything?
This is just the expense. Any revenue that we received because there was any type of valuable wood or any type of other amenities like the stable doors that we would be able to get revenue for, that would be paid back to the village. So we would outlay the 42, and then any revenue coming in because of the sale of any of the amenities, we'd be able to reap that.
Okay, but we're relying on him to sell it and tell us what he gets.
I'm relying on Director Beals.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he's gonna take a cut, you know.
He might just let us be in touch with the companies that are interested. We hadn't got to that point, to be honest with you. He did mention it in conversation.
Okay.
That, you know, he saw value. He is also came recommended through me, through the director of the water department, who he has also done extensive work for.
Okay, thank you.
Through you, Mayor, to Chris. Chris, would you recommend that in this situation that whoever this entity comes in that would be interested in purchasing it, come in, strip the building, and then let the contractor do their work?
That could be one of several directions the village can go. First off, we have to clean out our crap that's in the barn. If anybody goes in there for a tour, you're going to have to walk gingerly. There's a lot of stuff we have in there from a lot of departments. So first thing, once the council decides what direction we go, all the departments who have stuff in there will be advised their stuff is evicted. Then we can really get a good handle on the wood, the doors, and so forth. We'll put out some feelers, maybe work with the person who gave us a quote to see what their time frame is, what our time frame is, and see if we can get somebody interested in taking it before the overall demolition is done, to salvage it.
Because it would be sad to have it demolished if those items are usable. And
Yeah, I think there is salvageable stuff in there, but like everything else that you want to sell, you have to find the right customer for it.
Right.
That oftentimes is the challenge.
Is there any concern structurally, like if somebody wanted to purchase something and they come in and they're stripping the barn wood, that, you know, the building would collapse?
I'd like a certificate of insurance on them, indemnifying the village for their actions. So if they collapse a barn on themselves, oh well, next.
And Lorraine, I'm sure that a lot of the timbers that might have some value, and again, I don't know how much value we're talking about at the end of the day, are structural. So, you know, how this contractor's going to take it down is going to be part of this. It's not, well, let's go take down this timber and that timber. It's they're going to take it down knowing what they're going to try and save. So, and again, we're going to get a couple of bucks for it. I'm not anticipating that this is going to be big money.
Okay.
You know, we use the term in engineering and construction, means and methods. Like when we bid out a project on behalf of the village, we don't dictate necessarily how exactly it is to be done. We rely on the contractor. Their means and methods is to achieve the goal we want. The same would apply in any salvage operations in the building.
Anyone else?
So I just wanted to add, so when Evan and I took our seats, we were looking at all the buildings for revenue generating, and this is one of the ones that I thought, oh, maybe we could do something here. So I have had the luxury of being in the barn. Matt Rogers and I, Heather, we took a tour with Chris. And, you know, I did this after being the Parks and Rec liaison. The complaints have been fairly persistent. People have general legitimate concerns. And I remember when horses were in that barn. So the stable gates are probably the most whimsical. You might get some money for that, but the inside condition of the barn was really, really bad. And on Matt's advice, I wanted to bring the whole Parks and Recreation Committee in, that we felt it was really unsafe. And I'm not going to name names, but only the bravest of us went up the stairs because they're unstable, unsteady, and slightly scary. So I want to say thank you to everybody. I know this is a lot of work, a lot of numbers, and this is a lot of information that makes it easier for me to draw upon the decision that this has got to go, and, you know, like pretty quickly. And with that, I think it's a unique opportunity to think about what we want to do next. So thank you. I mean, this is really, Congress jokes aside, this is an impressive staff with some impressive statistics, so thank you so much.
So are we going to vote on this next week?
Quite frankly, yes. We
Okay,
can
good.
do a resolution authorizing the expenditure. It's below the bid threshold, so we can do that. And again, I just want to sum up, my concern about this in totality is the liability. The liability of young people being in there, unsupervised, not knowing what's going on, the liability of the condition of the building, as the councilwoman indicated. I went up the stairs. I was one of those brave people, and I got about halfway up and questioned my decision. But I have grave concerns about the condition of this building, and God forbid something happens there.
Yeah, plus, I mean, look, you have vermin there. We have a tenant that has children that go out and play, and so, yeah. Here, just from the austere nature of the witnesses testifying today, it sounds like you guys are feeling very strongly about this, and I think the council is with you.
Nope. Agreed.
So we have a consensus to put a resolution on the agenda?
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thanks very much.
Okay, I'd like to invite Director Calby back up.
No. Lots of Richard Waters.
Michael Kors, Business Manager for Ridgewood Water. Rich, if you can take the council through items 13A, 1 through 11, and then we are going to jump down to one under budget that falls under Rich at the end of his report.
Right. Thank you, Keith. Mr. Kors is joining me tonight, kind of breaking him in so he gets experience.
We will try to be gentle with you, Michael.
Any questions, direct to my right, please. So we've got quite a few agenda items tonight, and the reason for that, it's end of year, trying to line up contracts for the beginning of '24. So please bear with me as we go through them, and certainly ask any questions along the way.
Could I have you speak into the microphone, please?
I thought I was, sorry. Okay. So the first item is 13A1. This is an award of a contract for distribution, piping, various infrastructure improvements throughout the Ridgewood water system. It consists of improvements of a street in the Township of Wyckoff, work within the Village of Ridgewood, and also within the Borough of Glen Rock. 8 bids were received on November 16, 2023, out of 20 that were picked up. They were publicly opened in this room. They were reviewed by Suburban Consulting Engineers, who was the contractor consultant on the project. They provided an award recommendation in your packet. Ridgewood Water is also concurring with their recommendation and recommends an award to the low bidder, Shauger Property Services, in the amount of $4,529,980. The work is funded in the water capital budget, and it consists of 7,440 linear feet of new ductile iron water mains and 1,725 linear feet of raw water mains on those streets I mentioned throughout the water system.
Questions? Good.
Thank you. Next item is 13A2. This is infrared asphalt surface repair. This project is bid out annually by the Village Engineering Department, by the village engineer. This was awarded back in April 26 of this year. What is in front of you tonight is to award the next half of this contract for half of the 2024 contract year, running from January 1st through June 30th of '24. It's the same contractor, J. Fletcher Kramer, who is currently under contract. This is for work doing repairs and replacements for roadway, sidewalk, curbing that is disturbed when we do repairs and replacements throughout the system. And additionally, the village utilizes it in case they have to make a repair for a road opening permit contractor who doesn't follow the permit conditions. The amount of the contract is $125,000. That amount of money is allocated in the Ridgewood Water operating budget.
Questions?
Yeah, I have a question, and I'd like to put it to Chris Rudishauser. This is a contract to repair the roadways, and it looks like some of it is, some of the damage is occasioned by third-party contractors who, as is written in here, who fail to satisfactorily restore the street. So my question is, how often does that happen? And if so, can we compel the third parties to pay for these repairs instead of the taxpayers?
Let me answer your question a little bit backwards.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the infrared asphalt restoration. It's for it's for an additional 6 months because it runs January 1st to December 31st, but I bid it last June. So now we need another award by you folks until June 30th or whatever, right, Rich? Yes. And then at that time, we will ask the vendor if they want to renew it at the same price as they currently quoted. Now, to your question on, it doesn't happen very often because we have road opening permits that are required for anybody digging in the public right-of-way. Part of that road opening permit is we get insurance information, we get the information on the contractor, and we get a bond. For the smaller jobs, it's usually $1,000. Most people will give us a cash instead of getting a paper bond. We will refund that at the end of a year if the trench restoration is acceptable, proper, hasn't settled. If it is no good, we'll seize the bond and we'll use that money to pay for the infrared contractor to make the repairs.
Okay, so we're protected.
Yeah. Matter of fact, in the last several years, I have not put any money in my operating budget to use this award for any of our municipal streets. Because
Thank you.
usually we go after the bonds. Okay.
Good. Anyone else? Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Next item is 13A3. This is the award of HVAC maintenance and repair contract. On November 9th, Ridgewood Water received bids for HVAC maintenance and repair for the years 24 and 25. Total 4 bid packages were requested. Only one was submitted, although a second came in late, and that was not able to be opened. But the low bidder recommendation is to Unitemp Mechanical Degrees LLC in the amount not to exceed of $55,000. That amount consists of annual maintenance at several locations throughout Ridgewood Water's system, a village hall, and the new water headquarters. Additionally, there will be a repair allowance subject to the hourly rates that were in the bid for the contractor in the event that there are necessary repairs. Funding for this contract is in the water operating budget and the village operating budget.
Questions? Good.
Next item is 13A4. This is for servicing repair of electric source. In November of '21, the village awarded a 2-year contract to Van Noor Electric. We asked Van Noor if they would like to extend their contract for a 3rd year, knowing the situation with the economy and how prices are going. They had agreed to extend for a 3rd year, so we're recommending an award of an extension in the same amount of the not to exceed that we've done on an annual basis, $250,000. That water is contained in the water operating, or that money is in the water operating budget.
Questions? Let's go.
Next item is 13A5. Similar to Van Noor, this is now servicing and repairing of portable water pumping facilities. Another extension request was made to that contractor, Williams Stodoff Company, Inc. They agreed to an extension, so this will be a 1-year extension, the amount not to exceed of $500,000, the same amount that has been the not to exceed for every year of the contract. This money is also within the water utility operating budget.
Questions? Good.
Next item is 13A6. This is the award of contract for landscaping services for Ridgewood Water at all the properties throughout the 4 municipalities. Total 5 bid packages were requested. 2 were submitted on November 9th, 2023. The low bidder was LTI Inc. The amount of the annual service contract was $149,950. That amount includes a $20,000 allowance for miscellaneous services, generally landscape plantings that we may have to do at facilities to replace dead plantings. The current contract we have is with LTI. They've performed successfully on that contract, so we're recommending a 2-year contract with LTI in the amount of $149,950. This amount of money is also within the water operating budget.
Questions? Good.
Next one is 13A7. This is award of contract for the furnishing and delivery of sodium hypochlorite. This is the disinfectant that is utilized and added to the water to prevent bacteria in the water delivered to our customers. On November 8th of '23, 2 bids were submitted out of 8 packages that were picked up. The apparent low bidder was PVS Mini Bulk Inc. in the amount of $2.48 per gallon. PVS Mini Bulk is currently under contract. They performed also successfully. The price has gone up as a result of variations in the market for chemicals. We are recommending award for the $2.48 per gallon price. Bridgewater uses approximately 50,000 gallons, expected not to exceed of $124,000 for the contract. This funding is also within the water utility operating budget.
Questions? Good.
Next item is 13A8. This was award of contract for line stop and valve insertion services for the years '24 and '25. On November 8th, bids were received for this project. 2 bids were submitted out of 4 that were picked up. Conquest was the parent low bidder. Subsequently, those bids were reviewed. We checked references, we checked the equipment and the experience of the contractor. As a result of a bad reference and experience with this contractor similar here within Ridgewood, we are recommending rejection of that low bidder and awarding to the second lowest bidder, Carner Brothers, in a not-to-exceed amount of $200,000 per year. Funding for this is also in the water utility operating budget.
Questions?
Next item is 13A9. This is also a contract for Ridgewood Water. This is a 1-year contract. This is for pipe and appurtenances. So this is all the piping, hydrants, valves, et cetera, that is purchased for repairs and replacements done by Ridgewood Water staff. On November 8th, we received bid packages. Total of 2 were received out of 5 that were picked up. Also, in this case, 1 was submitted late and could not be opened as a result of that. We're recommending award to both of the bidders because this bid is unique. It's awarded in sections. So the low bidder on each section gets awarded that section, but you have to provide prices on the entire section. So in this case, Capital Supply is receiving several of the sections, and Ferguson Waterworks is receiving portions of 1 and 1 other section. So we're recommending award is a total not to exceed of $415,000 for all the various parts that are utilized by Ridgewood Water. Funding for this is also contained within the operating budget.
Questions? Good.
Okay, 13A10. This is a change order for Suburban Consulting Engineers for the 23 various transmission and distribution improvements. As a result of requests from Ridgewood Water, there were extra charges on the project in the amount of $8,942. Those modifications were necessary to make changes to the plans to include sanitary sewer mains that were going to be put in a future project to make sure there are no conflicts, to make the addition of fiber optic conduit so we could expand our fiber network, and a change in size of one of the raw water mains. This is the first and final change order for the project. That brings the total up to $97,112. This is funded in the capital budget for the water utility.
Everybody good? Good.
And the last water item, Mr. Kors is going to handle Water Smart. It's a name change.
What is that, 13A11? Yeah. So under the vendor name change, under the resolution, on 23289, dating back September 13th, 2023. The Village Council renewed the annual WaterSmart customer portal software package for the years 2023, 2024, and 2025. During that time, we had entered the resolution under the Vertex One company. While entering the new vendor form, we were informed that the WaterSmart Software, Inc. was still the company name. So this is a name change, just to change the resolution and the proper vendor name over to WaterSmart Software, Inc.
Everybody good?
Yep.
Great. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Mayor, with your
Thank you,
permission, I
Rich.
just asked the council to move to item 13C19. It's the rejection of the proposal, I'm sorry, I take that back. It's the rejection of bids for the landfill disposal of solid waste. That also falls under Mr. Calby's responsibilities. So, Rich, if we can speak to that one.
Thank you for taking this item. So this item is the contract that we put out every 2 years for the disposal of solid waste. On November 9th, we did receive bids out of 5 bid packages that were picked up. 2 bids were received. The apparent low bidder was Waste Management in the amount of $92.50 per ton. At our estimated tonnage of 9,500 tons, the total cost per year would be $878,750. This was over what we had estimated for the disposal. Our estimate was $85 per ton. So we're recommending a rejection of the bid, and we're going to go out to bid if you so approve it, and hopefully achieve better pricing.
Good. Questions? No. All good. Thank you.
All right, thank you
you
very
both.
much.
I did want to say thank you to Rich and to Chris and Keith for answering all my questions. So that makes things go much
The
quicker
deputy
here.
mayor only submitted 5 pages worth of questions to us to answer on this agenda.
They were color-coded.
She read every word, I can attest to it. No, and that invitation is extended to the entire council. If you ever have questions before a meeting and you want to either call or put those into writing, we can certainly talk to the department heads and get your answers leading up to the meeting so you feel comfortable. Mr. Rooney, if you come forward for the budget and finance portion of the agenda. Bob's here tonight to speak on the first 3 items under the budget. So, Bob, if you want to start with C1.
So I provide you with the financial statements through September 30th, the revenue and expenses for the current water and parking utility. As of September 30th, we've achieved, bear with me one second, the local revenues have been at about 99% of what we anticipated through the year. I will tell you through November, we're at about 107%. So that's a good thing. Through the state aid, through September 30th, we were about 32%. That state aid is predicated on our best practices. So once we file the best practices and we're within the guidelines that they've established, we get 100% of the state aid. So through November, we're up to 92%. The balance will be paid by the end of the year. That'll get us at the 100%. Next section relates to state grants, state and federal programs, all of which are realized at 100%. After that, we're into other special items. Through September, we were about 85% of what we anticipated. Currently, through November, we're at about 90%. Overall, revenues 77% through September. Through November, we're at 93%. So looking good on the revenue side. Appropriations, I've made comments along each line item. Some of the concerns that we had, you're covering with transfer resolutions, which is typical for this time of year. If we have unanticipated changes due to contractual commitments as far as pricing on chemicals, things of that nature, unanticipated expenditures related to repairs that have to be made. That results in getting to those budget levels that are a little questionable, so we ask you to authorize transfer of funds to offset that and allow us to move forward. So rather than go through each item, if anybody has any questions specifically, I'd be happy to address them regarding the current fund.
Council, questions?
Okay, water fund, water count, which is on page 12 of 15. So through September 30th, we're at about 77%, which is right on budget. Through November, we're more to the 85, 90%, and there's a lot of billings that go out in December, so a lot of billings that have gone out through October, November, so I'm pretty confident that, we're going to be right on target with that. Same for the expenditures on the appropriations for water. As of September 30th, we're about 74%. I have no indication that we're going to have any problems with those whatsoever. We did have one transfer that we needed to make, which is before you tonight for $100,000. But other than that, there isn't anything that, any fluctuation that was not anticipated. Questions on water? Okay. Parking, through September, we were at 81% of what we anticipated. Through November, we're closer to 91%. So I think we're right on target with our parking. And for the appropriations related to parking, through September, we were at 72%, and I think we're right where we need to be right through November, so nothing unusual to report there. Questions?
Just in general, do you think parking is going back to closer to pre-COVID in terms of commuters?
Not yet.
Are we any closer?
It's, definitely moving in the right direction.
Okay.
You pass the train station parking lot on Mondays and Fridays, and it's not as crowded as Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have diminished usage there, but it's growing. It's climbing, which is good news.
What percentage would you say we are towards pre-COVID numbers? Are we at 50%, 70%, 80%, 30%?
I'm going to take a stab at 65-ish.
Just wondering.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, the next we have is the budget transfers that we're asking council to approve, provided explanations as to those items requiring transfers to. If you have any questions, be happy to entertain them.
Anybody? Thank you for a very uneventful financial update. That's the way we like them.
All right, last one on the list is the cash management plan. By statute, we're required to approve a cash management plan for the village. This plan is similar to what we've done in the past. We update it where need be for any change in circumstances. But right now, in a nutshell, we're restricted to where we can manage our money or invest our money. There's no risk to those that we have to use. So it's a very conservative approach. We do invest money with the state in the cash management plan, which provides some good returns for us. And as council could see on those revenue items, our interest on investments has skyrocketed this year based upon what we were allowed to anticipate. So that's a positive thing that goes to surplus that will help us next year in our '24 budget. And we will just have to monitor what the projections are for interest earnings for next year, so just in case it swings in the other direction. But it's all good.
Questions?
Thank you for answering all my questions in advance again.
As always, you're quite welcome. Never a problem.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Item 13C4 is the award of contract preparation of the 2024 Village Council meeting minutes. Heather, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add to that particular item?
Just that we had two candidates provide proposals. One was for $8 a page, which was Prestige EVAs LLC, and the other was Alvarez Typing at $9 a page. Alvarez Typing has done the minutes for the last 2 years and also did it back in 2009 and 2010. They were similar, not exact, but based on price as well as the level of detail, as well as being able to identify individual speakers. I am recommending that we go with the $8 per page proposed by Prestige EVAs LLC. This is-
Questions?
Yeah, I was going to say, this is a decrease in the price that we paid in 2023 by 50 cents a page.
Everybody good?
Mm-hmm.
Or not good with the decrease in price?
No, I was just thinking, the more we talk, then the more money we spend, right? Good to know. Good to know.
You're costing us a fortune, Whites.
No, I'm one of the good ones here, but I'm going to shut up and save us some money.
Let's go.
Through you, Mayor, item 13C5 is to award extraordinary unspecifiable services contract improvements and upgrades to the public safety communication bandwidth at various locations. This was the action item, or the agenda item, I should say, that we spoke about when Lieutenant Chuck was here, talking about the potential for additional antennas on this building. And after reconvening with the team after that council meeting, I think we all came to the conclusion that because there is a public safety aspect to this, and because it does affect our communication amongst our EMS personnel, that we were comfortable moving towards an extraordinary unspecified services contract. So I did ask Chris and Chief Lyons to remain here in case there's any further questions. The concept is exactly the same as we talked about at the previous meeting. It's just a different procurement process to help us attain our goal. Any questions on that or for the professionals?
I just want to say thank you. I totally agree. I think it's such a safety issue, especially when we're assembling crowds around here. I think it's great, so thank you.
Okay. Next item is C6, which is the award of contract for the concession refreshment service stand at Graydon Pool, the Water's Edge Cafe. This was an additional option for 2024. The second year option is for $10,500 in rental fees to Melsworth Foods, and Parks and Recreation Department is making a recommendation of award. Any discussion?
So Keith, we're contractually obligated, I assume, to accept this?
We have a one-year option, which
have,
we're looking to pursue. I did talk to Nancy about the possibility of going out and looking at other options moving forward, being that we did have the one-year option, and there's no guarantee, as we'll get to on the concession stand at the train station, that we are going to get a responsible party to bid. We're making the recommendation to do the extension.
Right, I know historically we've not had a lot of success in getting bidders here, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Right. And I know where you're going, because you and I have had this conversation, Councilman. Next year, we're going to be required to go back out, because there won't be the additional year option. So we're going to go out into the field and see what the responses are at that time anyway.
Great, and just be clear, I have no concerns, no issues with the current vendor. I think they do a nice job. I just want to make sure we're competitive. Okay.
Okay. Item 7 is award of contract for 2024 recreational program instruction for the Parks and Recreation Department. This is a new bid for 2024 with an option for 2025, and all the activities are outlined in the resolution.
Questions? Good.
Item C8 is the award of contract of the Bergen County Cooperative Contract for untreated rock salt. This is a recommendation from the village engineer. This year's quote for untreated rock salt is $78.75 per ton. Last year it was $75 for an increase of $3.75 per ton. We need rock salt because Chris is predicting a bad winter. That's all I have.
And
Chris,
I understand we have some
don't ask him
left
to
over.
explain the weather to you, because he will. I'm
But
sorry, Deputy Mayor.
I understand we have some salt left over, but we're going to go through it pretty quickly. Oops.
And there you go.
Not my fault.
It's going to cost us another $8.
Well, I could shout from the back of the room, or I could use the microphone, because Heather prefers the microphone. We have enough salt for maybe 8-10 inch storm, and then we're out. Unfortunately, we do not have a large storage capacity, so we can't hold thousands of tons from one season to the other. The nicest salt barn in the village belongs, unfortunately, to DOT. It's by the park and ride, and they don't let us have any of it, so.
Okay, thank
Good.
you. I mean, I have to ask, do you really think it's going to be a bad winter? This is what's circulating. I have to do it. I can't hold back.
Why'd you have to do that?
It's not 11 o'clock yet, okay. The weather patterns in the last few years have been called in a La Nina pattern. It's generally lighter snow in this area. The Pacific Ocean temperatures, winds have shifted to El Nino. That is generally more predictive of more snow. Will we have snow? Maybe, maybe not. Will we have a lot? Maybe, maybe not. If I could predict exactly how much we'd get, I'm in the wrong line of work.
Well, Vale got 2 feet on Monday, so my son is very happy.
Lucky them.
We're losing our momentum.
Okay, item C9 is a resolution to rescind 23-205 and resolution 23-262, award of contract for 2 vehicles that are no longer available. Item 10 is award of contract under the state contract for a 2023 Ford F-550. That's a 4x4 Mason dump truck for the Parks Department. That's a replacement for the rescinding resolution prior to. Okay, item 11, award contract under Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program for the lease of a Ford Explorer for the Health Department. This is actually an interesting program that Ridgewood has endeavored in. Lieutenant Chuck from the Police Department has worked with Enterprise Fleet Management to lease our vehicles. We're actually doing a presentation at our directors meeting on December 20th about this program. They are looking to expand our capacity here, but this is the 4th year of a 5-year lease on the 2021 Ford Explorer for the Health Department.
When you consider the lease a year hence, could you look into hybrid?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And as we evaluate the fleet, which I think is going to be a major project in the first quarter of 2024, I am still wrapping my arms around the amount of vehicles that we have, who utilizes them, what their longevity life is going to be. I have asked Mike Junta to start to identify vehicles that could be converted to hybrid use. So for example, inspector vehicles are a good candidate for hybrid use, whereas, the Parks Department and the Streets Department, probably less so. So as we're going through that evaluation process, we're going to be identifying which vehicles in future leases could be moved over to hybrid. Okay. Item 12, Chief Judge, if you'd come forward. And actually, as John's walking up, he's going to address item 12 and 18. So if you wanted to pull 18 out for that discussion as well. Chief?
Sorry, is 12 the request or 12 the denial? Apologies. Oh, 12 is the request. Okay, so 12 is the request for award professional services, another year for Keaveney and Strieger. We used them in 2022. Due to speaking with Keaveney and Strieger of what we used and what our plans for next year are, they've agreed to lower the price. This year, the price would come into about $17,400 for the entire year versus the $36,000 last year. Also importantly to note on this is that this year, for any clients, they wrote a full policy and procedure manual, very specific to EMS. It's been vetted by about 3 different attorneys as well, and that comes with, he sells it for $5,000 separately, or it comes with when you do this purchase. If anybody wants to see, I had sent a table of contents, but it's very, very thorough for what they're doing. Just to go back, we've done, not to say too many words for our typing, I was listening, but just with Keaveney and Strieger over the past year, I quickly glanced today, I think I've sent him over 200 emails this year. Also, he has said he's available to the whole village, not just FD and EMS. The other day he sat with Chief Lyons about a couple things as well, and we've touched on countless topics. And if anybody wants to know, I wrote a whole list out, but we can save that for another day. And that's really it on that. If just looking to keep him on for another year, 12 months.
Questions?
Not sure anything.
Sounds like a good investment.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay,
And-
item 18, Chief?
Yes, the recommendation to reject the proposal. So we put an RFP out for the ambulance billing. So ARS is our current ambulance billing company. We got them in 2007. In 2010, that ended, but they still are a billing company. Never went back out again. When we put it out this time, we found that the response we received back was just one person. We only received one. The references provided by this person, we called many of them and got, we'll say, average responses, we'll just say. In addition, when I was down at the league, I spoke to a couple other billing companies who said they didn't actually even see our proposal. We thought we'd had it out in the right places, but I guess we missed a couple of the more important ones. So a couple of the bigger companies that never even heard our proposal. So based on those two things, we're suggesting to reject the one proposal received and to rebid it out again.
Everybody good?
Thank you for answering my questions in advance.
Absolutely, anytime.
Okay, circling back to item 13, award of professional services contract for the pediatrician for the child health clinics. This is an endeavor that we take on with Glen Rock and Fairlawn through our health department. Would like to award this to Dr. Wayne Noricki, who has done this for the last 14 years. The rate is $180 per hour, not to exceed $19.50 for each of the municipalities.
Questions? Let's go.
14 is award professional services contract for animal control and waterfowl management. This is a 2-year contract, which will expire in June of '24. However, we need a funding resolution for January. The yearly charge is $32,400. Breakdown of $27,400 for animal control services and $5,000 for waterfowl management, for a total of $32,400. And this is to Tyco.
Everybody good?
Okay. 15 is award of professional services contract for the elevator subcode inspection. I know Deputy Mayor Perrin asked me about this morning. This proposal moves us from the Department of Community Affairs, who has historically done the elevator inspections for the village, and moves over to a private inspection company, which is based here in Bergen County. The difference is that under DCA inspections, we receive no revenue. Under the private contractor, we have the potential, based on the volume of our elevator inspections, to take in somewhere between $9,000 and $10,000 a year in revenue inspection fees. So that's the difference between going with the state. In talking to Tony Merlino, we're recommending that we do this for a year. We'll evaluate it in the last quarter of next year to determine if the service is adequate. If it is, we'll renew it and continue to collect those revenues. If it's not, we always have the ability to go back to the state and use the DCA.
Good.
Okay.
Everybody good?
Okay, 16 is authorize a shared services contract for the child health clinic. This reverts back to item 13, but this is to enter into the shared services contract with Glen Rock and Fairlawn for the child health clinics for calendar year '24.
Questions? Good.
Okay, the next item is the bid that went out for the train station coffee bar at the Ridgewood train station. We advertised and received bids on November 22nd. The minimum bid was $1,200 per month. We had no responses at that time, albeit 6 people did pick up. At this time, Chris is recommending lowering the minimum monthly rent to $800 a month and going back out to bid. We do want to document this, because if we do have 3 rounds of no responses, then we're able to negotiate a contract independently of the bid process.
Good.
So,
Okay.
wait, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So are we not at 3 already? I mean, Heather, didn't we bid earlier in the year? Because
My understanding is the bids all have to be the same. So in
So
other
before-
words, if you change the amounts, then
Oh,
they
so
may
if
not
we'd
be
gone
the
out like-
same.
Okay. 3 times. So it's 3 strikes on,
Yeah, and Chris, you've spoken to some of the prospective bidders who picked up?
Yeah, we bid this out twice so far this year and once last year.
Okay.
With different minimum floors, monthly charges. one person I spoke to, we were asking for too much. There just isn't the volume of business in the trains, going through the train station, taking the train in the city. As was mentioned earlier this evening, like on a Monday and on a Friday, the lot at the train station is not full. It's half empty. So we may want to try bidding it at a lower rate, see what happens. Again, if we are unsuccessful, we may hit the regulatory limit where we can negotiate with a prospective vendor.
Chris, what were we charging pre-COVID?
I think we were around $1,200 a month.
So can I ask another question?
So that's what we were.
We were getting paid.
So if we.
That's a
offered-
lot of coffee.
Yeah, but if we offered it 800, and if, as Bob said, we're at about 65%, our lots are, of the commuters that we normally get, that sounds like it's about the right number.
Hopefully. Again, the pandemic changed a lot of things. It's hard to say if people are still interested in grab and go, get a wrapped up muffin and a cup of coffee to take on a train.
They are.
Right
Yep.
now, nobody seems to want to take that gamble with us.
So I think it's great. I think in addition to getting the revenue, it provides a service. And, with limited words, when I was canvassing for the election, people really are missing their coffee, especially on that side. When we do the bid, can we cycle it through the Chamber of Commerce? Because maybe there's a way that an existing coffee vendor would want to have like a satellite location.
Okay. Well, what we'll do is, like we've done with the other bids, we'll produce it we'll reduce the bid package into a PDF. I'll
Okay.
email it to the chamber and the guild.
Perfect.
We do advertise in the Ridgewood News. We also have a series of online companies that we send our notice of advertisement to, and they send it out to various companies that subscribed for their services.
I think it's great. I just think that there might be the potential that a local merchant might want to just send some coffee over every day, and that would be great because it would be local.
Sure.
Thank
I think
you,
it's a great
Chris.
idea.
Yep. Should we consider no floor at all? No minimum?
I actually was just thinking the same thing. I mean, I'm more interested in the service than the income. Income here, even if we got 500, 600, 700 a month.
I think you
grand
need to
scheme of things-
establish a certain floor. It can be low, but I would not recommend going to 0. I would maybe lowball it somewhere under $500, somewhere in that
I agree
range.
with the low ball. I mean, like I said, it's more about it's more about the service than it is the actual income. The income in the grand scheme of things is the minimus. To Siobhan's point, people just want to grab coffee when they're waiting for the train. I'd like to
Right.
provide that for folks.
I want the income too, but I think I think during COVID, a lot of people waived rent overall, and I don't know if this is true, but that's why Flo left, because of the rent. So I think it'd be great to explore, a lower value too. But I do think we need to be concerned with the rent, and we shouldn't waive it completely.
800 has already not succeeded.
Well, I agree with
We have, sorry,
Keith.
it's 1,200.
Oh, that's right.
It's 1,200, and this is the third time at 1,200, or
We've had it at 1,200. We've had it, I think, at 500 and 800.
when was the 500?
I'd have to look it up. I think I replied to it in the emails to you, Ms. Parent.
Yeah.
Is there a consensus to go with 500,
Yeah.
being that we went out
Here.
there
We
already?
just want to see if 500 was at the height of COVID, or
May
like over the summer.
24th, the minimum bid was 500. That's May 24th, 2022.
Yeah.
February 15th, 2023, the minimum bid was 1,200 per month. And November 22nd, 2023, the minimum bid was 750 per month.
And we didn't get any nibbles.
Yep. So do we want to,
I support 500.
Sounds like 500 is a good number.
there were more people coming to the train station since then in
Right.
May of 2022, so
Right.
we'd likely get something at 500.
And listen, and at 500, if it is that attractive a number, you will get, I mean, you had 6 people pick up packets.
Right.
It's a bid process, so you.
It's meant to
if-
be competitive.
Yeah.
And then when that's over, if we don't get anybody, we can call all 6 of them after we've hit the 3
Yeah.
times? Okay, great.
Yeah, our office is trying to contact the bidders to find out what their reasons are for not responding. I haven't gotten that data back. Hopefully I'll get it back by next Wednesday for the council.
I do love the idea of a local merchant getting the business.
Sure.
Okay.
Good.
Chris, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, item 20 is rescind and replace Resolution 23-371, award contract under state contract for computer equipment. This is to purchase new desktop computers, monitors, and webcams for the village through the IT department. Not to exceed 17,000, I'm sorry.
65,695.
Yes. Sorry about that.
Questions? Good.
Okay. Item 21 is to confirm endorsement of Community Development Block Grant for West Bergen Mental Health Care, the installation of ADA-approved automatic doors. They are requesting a grant for $40,000.
Great.
Okay.
Good.
And 22, authorize refund and cancellation of property taxes for a disabled veteran on Meadowbrook Avenue.
All set.
Okay. All right, moving to policy, under item D, we have a communication from Joan Monton, who I've been working closely with on the military banners program. I know this was something that the village started last year. The banners were up from Memorial Day through the 4th of July, so they were up for the parade. This year, Joan is requesting that the banners stay up from May through Veterans Day, which is customary and traditional in communities throughout northern New Jersey, that the banners are up for that duration of time. She's requesting the use of 75 poles, which would allow for 150 placements, since there's 2 banners on each pole, and they would be spread out through the central business district, and we'll coordinate with Rich Charlton and Signal as to how they'll be placed throughout the business district.
And then, aren't there street lamps that, beyond the 75, that also have places for banners?
Yes,
So
yes,
if
I know.
somebody else wanted to put up banners on a different topic, there's room for them?
There would be capacity.
Okay.
Yes, and I think that we have some pedestrian banners that typically are up, and there
For
could
safety
be
and
other groups. And listen, we're going to speak about the SID in just a few minutes, but if the SID becomes a viable option here in the village, I'm sure this is something that they would want to look at too. So there would be capacity for that.
So there's about the room for about 200 to go up. When, pre my time on council, when we did the secret double probation senior banner project, Heather's team went out and counted, so it's about 200. So Jones. 200 banners, yeah, that's like our maximum capacity.
I think there's 137 poles, except I don't have it in front of me, but I think that was the number that we discussed. Yeah.
So they were
about
saying, and that means like we can't do Ridgewood High School seniors because there's always too many, and so we did, and I sent Rich that whole breakdown of what we did then. That's why we moved to the fences.
So we have support for this?
Good.
Okay.
Yes.
Item D is D2, regulations on electric bicycles, electric scooters, electric skateboards, and non-human powered vehicles. There were some revisions that were requested to be made the last time the council considered this. Chris revised the memo on November 22nd. And there is one addition that we discussed today between myself, Matt, and the deputy mayor. Matt, do you want to just speak to that language?
That was just to identify that the operator or whoever was using the powered vehicle was somebody that needed to have it, and someone who was recognized as a person with a disability. So.
Right. So we're going to add that language to what's proposed for next week.
Thanks.
And have we sent this to the Board of Ed? Because the last time this came up, they had requested it after our first introduction.
Once Matt makes the change,
Okay.
Matt, if you'll share that document
Okay.
with me,
I'll make the change,
and then
sure.
I'll send it to the superintendent.
Thank you.
Okay. Just make a note. Okay. Under operations, item E, appointment of Special Improvement District Steering Committee. I'll turn it over to the deputy mayor.
Yeah, we had a meeting on November 17th, and we invited as many people who either own commercial property in the village or have businesses in the village to come and hear about what a special improvement district is and what it could do for our economy. And the next step is to create steering committee that would come up with the mission, the goals, the services that a special improvement district would supply. And so after the meeting, we had a number of people volunteering to be part of the steering committee and attend the meetings that'll be like twice a month for the next maybe 6 months. And this is just phase 1. Phase 2 is more outreach to the entire business community with whatever proposal the steering committee comes up with. So they have a lot of work to do in the steering committee. And it also includes people from the village staff to help with mapping and to understand the tax assessments and work that into the formula for SID assessments. So this is what I'm asking you to, the list of people that I would ask to be appointed to the steering committee. And I think I've called each of you before to go over this, so.
I didn't respond to you, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I know it's going to go through, it's fine, no offense.
None
but
taken.
I do think it's a conflict of interest. I know I spoke to Matt, it may not be legally a conflict of interest, but I think it just doesn't look good if, you know, as a council member, we hired this company, and now you want to be on the steering committee to something that, I mean, I think it's a fabulous idea to have a SID, absolutely. And hopefully, it's going to benefit all of the property owners and the stores financially. So, to me, that you shouldn't be on it. There's so many property owners, I don't know why, you know, you need to be one of them, but.
And Matt, I'll let you address this.
Yeah, I mean, I did have a discussion earlier. You know, Lorraine was kind enough to give me a call and discuss it, and I told her that to the extent that the matter has been reviewed and the, looking at the local government ethics law and the New Jersey conflict of interest law, it's pretty clear in the section 40A:9-22.5I that says that, you know, if the government official is a member of a group and there's no benefit accruing to him that's different than the rest of the group, there is no conflict. And they've given several examples of how to apply that to the specific facts. This clearly is, at this stage of the game, a development committee or a steering committee. And at this point, participation would be allowed. It's not a conflict because he's just a member of that same group of people that may benefit from it, but they all benefit equally because of the way that it's going to be done. He's not going to be singled out. He's not going to be individualized. And he fits into the group aspect of what the statute allows.
I also discussed it with Stuart Copperweiss, and he said that Paul won't be conducting the meetings. He's not leading the charge here. He's just a participant like the other property owners.
I get that. I'm just saying, to me, it just, you know, legally, I understand it's not a conflict. I just think it doesn't pass the smell test. It doesn't look right. But, you know.
I'd like to
that's
say a
me.
couple things. First, thank you, Pam, and thank you to everybody on this committee who said yes. And what doesn't look right now is our town. We have vacancies, we have litter, we have issues. And at some point, I really want all of us to get on board behind Pam, who's done the lion's share of this, and make sure we move forward. Town's looking better, right? I really feel that way, but we need to be, when we talk about town, this is just my opinion, a little honest about where we are. For every store we open, another one closes. This week, in a super sad moment, I went to Town and Country. Town and Country has been here since my mother was a child. They're all disappearing. You know, some of the last of the long-standing stores we were going over, because Town and Country is one of them. And I think the oldest existing business is actually the funeral home, because my dad always used to make the joke that people are just dying to get in there. Our town is changing. We need to be responsive. I think this is nothing more than a good thing. So I know we're trying not to talk a lot, but we need to, all 5 of us, be on board with that our town needs help. These people want to help it. Things like the garbage cans were so great. the plantings that you and Pride did is so great, but we need to get really innovative, creative, and aggressive with downtown because it needs help. And I think it looks better, but I think everybody hears it. We have these young newcomers who write us lovely letters, but it's all about what's missing, what's not there. And I just wanted to say thank you. And I think the SID is going to be such a good thing. But SIDs, from when I met with Stuart and went to the thing in Atlantic City, they're what we make of them. So I just want to say thank you to everybody on here. Thank you to this council. And town has to look better. Town's got to be better. And I hope this is the first step in making it better.
And I want to thank Pam for doing this. She has, look, I'm the Central Business District guy, but this SID is 100% Pam's project. I am happy to support the project. I will note, for your concern, and again, obviously, if Matt said that this was an actual conflict, I wouldn't be involved in it. I'm going to pick a number out of the air. I don't know how accurate it is, but there's probably 80 or 100 property owners in town. There are 7 names on this list. That's all we could get to volunteer. So, again, if there were 25, I'd bow out. There's not that many people willing to participate because this is a time-intensive project. This group will probably be meeting once every 2 weeks for the next 6 months. I can understand why everyone doesn't want to do it. I'm not quite sure why I am willing to do it because I have all this free time. So, and again, I do appreciate your
So
concern.
many the other property owners were all asked?
No, everyone that we could get our hands on was invited to this meeting. We got a fraction of them, and only a fraction of the people who showed volunteered to do this. Because again, if you have to meet for a couple of hours every 2 weeks,
No, it's a lot.
you're not gonna get a lot of people. So again, the pickings are slim, and I'm part of the slim pickings.
I also struggle to figure out where there would be a conflict where the interests of the SID would diverge from the interests of the village. So I'm okay with it. Again, Lorraine, I hear your point, but, an actual conflict where Paul would have to put the interests of the property owner ahead of the village, I'm struggling to come up with a scenario where that would happen. And listen, I'll be blunt. I want this to succeed so I can raise your taxes, Paul. That's what I want.
Yeah, let's be clear about one thing. I'm going to be on this committee and hopefully endorse an increase in the property taxes for those people who are property owners, which is, by the way, why you must have property owners on this list, because we're the ones who are going to be footing the bill. And so without them, you don't really have much of a committee. So they're the most critical component here.
And just, obviously I'm being facetious, well, not really, but I want more business, means more valuable property, means more taxable income that we can use to defray what the residents pay. So we're kind of all aligned on what we all want here, maybe for different reasons. So, I hear what you're saying, and it's certainly not unreasonable, Lorraine, but I don't have an issue with this. And again, I completely agree with the rest of the council. It's a wonderful thing. Everybody agrees on that. And Pam, thank you for taking a leadership role on this.
Yep.
Really.
And I would also just point out that in Phase 2, the steering committee has to sell the whole idea and the formula and the framework of the SID to the entire business community. So Paul's voice at that point becomes even more diluted. So, yeah, I'm very excited about this.
Good. Any other questions? Anyone? Good. Let's move on.
Item E2 is the ordinance considering the appointment of the village historian, and I will yield to the council on further discussion of this particular ordinance.
Thoughts, opinions, ideas? I made a statement at the beginning of the meeting.
So you get off the hook.
Yep.
Listen, my view is I have, and I echo what you've said, Paul, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Joe and Peggy. I've had the privilege of working closely with Joe over the last few months on the HPC. They're both wonderful, wonderful sources and a treasure to Ridgewood. Where I come out on the issue, though, is I don't believe and I can't believe that 20 years ago, when the initial ordinance was passed, that this was supposed to be a lifetime appointment. I do think it makes sense that we have new people in. I do agree with the idea that, I know when Peggy got this, she was in the same role that the new person that we're giving it to, is in now. And I think that makes a lot of sense. That should go to a village employee, and the village employee that oversees the history room at the library is just a perfect example I think, person for it. But again, I come back to, I don't think any appointment should be for life. I think I like the idea of a 5-year period. I like the idea of it being someone who is a village employee. Listen, again, I can't say enough about Joe and Peggy and their work, and I know they'll continue to be a voice for Ridgewood history, but I do think we should have a little more governance around this. We should have something that makes sense, and again, not a lifetime appointment, which is what struck with me when this issue first came up, over the last couple of weeks and months.
Others?
I do want to thank Joe for his wonderful tours of the graveyard at Old Paramus Church and of Vallow Cemetery, and Peggy for spectacular exhibit at the Schoolhouse Museum of gorgeous Bergen County historical quilts. I mean, just incredible, educational, beautiful exhibit. So I really have appreciated their tenure and their wisdom and their historical knowledge.
I too want to thank Joe and Peggy. They have been a tremendous resource to everybody in Ridgewood. They're, so knowledgeable. It's incredible. I've gone on several tours, which is great. I remember I ordered a map, with your house on it, and when I went to pick it up at the schoolhouse, Joe was there, and he's like, "Where do you live?" I told him, and he told me like several stories of, my house or my next door neighbor. So it's amazing how much information and knowledge he has. And I do agree with Evan that I don't think it was meant to be a lifetime term. It's always good to have a new set of eyes on things. And I wish Peggy and Joe well. I know that they'll still stay in touch. They'll be available if we have any questions. They're just that kind of people, and they will always be willing to talk about history. And, thank you very much.
So I want to echo the thanks. They've both been incredible resources, and the house thing is real. While this was being discussed this week, so many people said, "Oh, they told me this about my house." They pulled the report about that I'm the third family to own this house. So thank you very much to both of them. I think it's the ultimate compliment to them that the decision being made here it's just on repeat. It's the same cycle. I want to thank the library and Sarah Kiefer for agreeing to this. We have such wonderful resources, and, as a lifetime user of that library, whenever I have a question, I know Pam does the same, you go and you ask them, and these librarians are awesome because they rely on facts, and they no longer have microfiche, but they're just amazing. So thank you to them, and thank you to the library, and I think this is just a nice next step that honors and expands upon the importance of an historian. So that's that. And I want to say thank you to Matt Rogers. I now know the difference between may and shall, and it's all perfect here, and I love it. And I think this is going to be a good thing for all of us.
I agree. When I came to Ridgewood about 30 years ago, Joe Saplicki was one of the first people I met and worked with because we were renovating the old Woolworths building to put 3 restaurants in there. It had been vacant for more than 5 years. And he was a font of knowledge. He was a great guy to work with. And I was very appreciative to have him at a time when, if you think that council meetings can be tumultuous, try renovating a 10,000 square foot building and opening a restaurant in it. he was a solid touch point for me, and I really appreciated that. And further to Siobhan's point, that this ordinance is based upon the experience that we had with Peggy. It is exactly that. It has worked so well that we designed the ordinance around what she did and what was done with her. So this is we can't say enough tributes about both of them. And again, I say it all the time, many hands make light work, and these guys have been making it light work for decades. So we really appreciate it.
And Mayor, lastly, on my portion of the agenda, E3, which is the correction to ordinance 3973, amend various sections of Chapter 190, land use and development, and sections of Chapter 145, enumeration of fees. So I'm going to turn it over to Matt on what has been corrected on this.
Yeah, this, I think, came before the council maybe once before. It has to do with the defining of minimum front yards and working with the maximum gross building area for a single-family detached home, which is already in our ordinances, and clarifies the issue of the interpretation of how to come about with the calculations for the minimum front yards and also for the coverage of the minimum front yards. So from here, if we are in favor of this, it will get introduced, sent back over to the planning board for review and their comments, and then come back to us if all is well.
And this is one of the issues that came from the Board of Adjustments annual report and recommendations to the Village Council.
And I'd just like to add that this particular one was in the large ordinance that we just adopted last month. And the issue was that in number 11, 25% was a typo in that big ordinance at 20%.
Oh.
We checked with John Barry. He confirmed that it should be it was 25% originally. It should remain at 25%. So that's actually the only change. And through that big ordinance, it was probably 30 pages.
Right.
This was the only typo that we found so far, but probably the only typo in the entire document.
And
So-
I missed it.
And this is, and this is to correct that.
You're losing your
So-
touch there, Deputy Mayor.
The
wanna let
comma
Pam escape.
queen.
You didn't want to let Pam escape. But if you remember, that was the one that, as Keith pointed out, that was the one that came over from the zoning board in their annual report. That
Right.
included a number of issues that were addressed, and this was one of them.
And I just want to thank Greg Brown, and who's the chairman of the planning board, the zoning board, and all the people who work tirelessly at a very difficult place, the Zoning Board of Adjustment, for making recommendations to make applications to the zoning board easier for our residents, because that was the goal of this. So thank you all very much.
Mayor, that concludes my portion of the agenda.
And with that, we will return to the public comments section of our meeting. Seeing none, I will close public comment. And we will entertain a resolution to go into closed session.
Be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood that the Village Council meet in closed session on December 6, 2023 at 7:30 PM or soon thereafter as the matter on the agenda can be reached, and that said closed session will be held in the fourth floor caucus room of the Ridgewood Village Hall, 131 North Maple Avenue, Ridgewood, New Jersey. Be it further resolved that the matters to be discussed in closed session are limited to legal matters to include Ridgecrest and personnel matters. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I reading the wrong one? I am. No. Sorry. Will include personnel matters to include Village Council appointments to boards and committees, and appointment of village auditor, which we actually completed at our earlier meeting, so we don't need that any longer. These matters are allowable under NJSA 10:4-12 et sec, and be further resolved that the minutes of this meeting shall be made available to the general public when such matters have been deemed completed by resolution of the Village Council. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you.